Griffin, Editor-in-Chief of Coco, and I'm absolutely thrilled to be here today with our November cover story, Gabby Reece. Hi, Gab.
Hi, thank you.
She's absolutely amazing. She is a super athlete, supermodel, New York Times bestselling author, wife, mother, businesswoman, television personality. Am I messing me up?
I don't normally dress like this. We're in the shoot. I just want to make that clear. Okay.
She's just an all-around badass. So thrilled. So hey, hi.
Thank you. Thanks for coming to my home.
One of the things that I've loved, from doing my homework about you, is learning about, the Ohana lifestyle, and really learning that just how naturally you and your family are sort of just situate yourself in an environment where you are always there to help your tribe, and those that help need help. And I love that constant state of giving that you emanate from. It's really awesome. Can you tell me a bit about that?
Well, I think I want to start, in Hawaii, most indigenous cultures, native culture, whatever it is. In this case, it's Polynesian Ohana family, which doesn't have to be the literal sense, right? It's our Ohana. So, here we are, you and I, we're in Ohana at this moment. They're very generous of spirit always, and it's always working in that collective. And Laird is from Kauai. I grew up on an island as well, and I think sometimes when you come to the big mainland of the United States, in places you'll see that they have that in their own way, but sometimes it is harder in cities or in whatever. So I want to preface by saying, though, it's also very easy for Laird and I, because it starts that Laird and I actually have each other. So I think sometimes, let's say somebody was singular, like in their life at that time, or maybe even like a single parent, I think it's harder because you're trying to do what you can do. So I would like to say that going back to my taste is refined, the exchange back to us is so powerful. But the idea is like, hey, listen, whether I know you or not, we're all connected, and your well-being is of interest to me, and your victories, even though I don't know you, are my victories because we all are connected. And I think in this time in the world where especially we have all these gadgets and people can sort of without responsibility comment, because I wouldn't comment, I wouldn't say certain things right here looking in your eyes. And so I think what happens is it just feels like it's even more important now that if you can do something for somebody, do it. And again, it's in no way like a Pollyanna thing. It's like, listen, this is good for us. I want to keep learning as a person. I believe it also keeps us younger because we don't just lock down into our thoughts and feelings and beliefs, because we have people coming through that go, well, this is how I do it. And you go, oh, I never looked at it like that. But it's being of service to your community whenever you can without the expectation of something in return. And that's not to be an idiot. I'm not saying it too, like, if somebody's coming over and it doesn't really at the end of the day work for you on a certain level, it doesn't mean they have to bring something, but maybe even energetically.
Yeah.
It's okay to be like, okay,
yeah,
that was good, you know? So I think it's like you're always doing it like, yeah, I can help you, no problem. So there's no expectation. I have built-in reinforcement with my partner, so that's always feeding me. There's a loop that goes on between us, so that keeps everybody kind of rested and powered up, if you will. And then it's also saying, oh, you know, I'm going to move maybe towards this relationship, or maybe I might start moving away from it too.
Yeah, no, I love that. I mean, firstly, you two have such a phenomenal dynamic, and you know, what really excites me is just seeing how you two connect on really such inspirational levels, such as superfoods, your foods, you're working together, you're raising the family, some of the things that I saw with you and how you relate to your children. Joe Rogan was a great, that was awesome. And to me, it was like, oh my gosh, she really does things differently, and they really do things as a team differently.
What do you mean? Because I think we're in some ways incredibly average, below average, because you're always feeling that way. So I would love to know what feels different to you.
Okay, so for me, looking at the average person, right?
Okay.
The average person, or the average people in a relationship, in a marriage, and I do know you two had a little whoopsie in the past.
Sure.
But you managed to, you know, pivot from that. You managed to move forward. And then from that, just have built strength on strength. And you have this, I love you say you're below average.
Well, no, I'm saying, like, you want to get my personal report card as a parent.
But no, just some of the things I found about you, about how, you know, you said when one of your daughters came to you and she was little and said, Mom, I don't really like how you did that. And then your response was so cool about it, like, oh, I didn't see it that way. And so then I changed. And for me, for example, I just thought, if I'd gone to my mom at that age and said, Mom, that's not working for me, she might not have responded that way, bless her heart. And she's a great mother, but she wouldn't have necessarily come at it. So for me also, that the fact that you as a couple, that the Ohana lifestyle is so important to you, because again, you don't come across many people that are just naturally wired to be of service. You don't come across many people whose favorite word is discomfort. You know, you too, and again with Laird Superfoods, I mean, what an incredible brand that it's this plant-based, whole food nutrition to really help elevate people's well-being. You know, the average, you know, Pam and Bob Jones next door isn't quite like you two. So
well, okay, so let's address it. So let's just take the scenario you brought up with my daughter. That was also other times my daughter coming to me and trying to talk to me and me not being able to hear her. So understand that I didn't arrive at these things originally. We had other scenarios that then you have choices and you go, I'm gonna have to get new tools here and I'm gonna have to learn. And the whole thing I think Laird and I probably do pretty well is learn from our mistakes. So maybe you heard a scenario that was 4 times deep into someone trying to talk to me and I wasn't able to hear. And then maybe being in a much more difficult situation as a parent and then being like, oh, okay. So, and then the same with Laird, it's like, going through a hard time learning the rhythm and to dance with one another, or couples have personal crises that doesn't have to do necessarily with the relationship and you have to weather those or whatever. But it's like going, oh, I'm going to take the lesson and put it in play. And so I think, if anything, we do that well. Laird Superfood, or we try. Laird Superfood was an organic business that came out of a natural habit of Laird's that wasn't meant to be like, you know, it was like, Laird's like, I can perform better, I can do it healthfully. He gave it to his friends. Someone came along after getting this magic coffee for years and years and was like, I wonder if I can turn this into a powder. And then as you move forward, you go, okay, well, what does this have to represent, right? So high quality ingredients, everything's going to be plant-based. We got to figure out a way to make it taste great, because we all know that maybe Laird might choke down something that's good for you every day. If it doesn't taste good, I'm probably not going to. And then the other part of that thing that's actually significantly important to both of us, because we both were raised and came from nothing, you know, Laird and I were talking about his mom going to the laundromat, is how do we make it affordable? You know, within, I mean, it's like within reason. I can never probably make it as cheap as soda, you know what I mean? But the whole idea of like, anything exclusive actually doesn't excite us. What excites us is if we could sort of figure out a way to get it. So understand that we grew into that.
Okay.
It wasn't like, let's whiteboard it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And hopefully your values show up. But I'd love to say it was that strategic, but you sort of go, okay, we find ourselves here. Well, let's ask ourselves the hard questions, and what are the answers to that? Okay, you know.
Well, I love your drive to make it accessible, though, because that is, again, for me, very much within that Ohana lifestyle, where you guys are taking the benefit of health and wellness and good food, whole food, and trying to get it to as many people as possible through making it in an accessible price point.
Well, health, you know, we've been in this space of self-care for 20 years, and what you start to realize is, like, all the triathletes and all the, you know, all these high-performance people, they have it figured out. They don't really need us, right? And so you start to go, why health shouldn't be an exclusive proposition. It's like even what we're going through now, like people should be able to have access to education and water. And so for us, both of us, I always joke that we're like, yes, both of us separately, and certainly Laird even to a higher level, are all about high performance. However, we're kind of very blue collar people. Like that's just how we were raised, and that's who we are. And the other part of that goes back to, I don't know that either one of us have the audacity not to recognize that we're really fortunate. And that is not about humility. That's just about being smart.
And I saw that about humility in your conversation with Ed Milet, which has fascinated me, that you talked about, you know, with everything going on, that you don't have humility. It's more that you don't have the balls. What's your expression? You don't have the balls to disrespect the universe.
Yeah, I'm not an idiot. Like, listen, I don't even care if you're Jeff Bezos, and some people know this better than others. We're all susceptible to the laws of the universe or God or karma or whatever, you know, things that people call this force. And this is not about humility. I'm trying to be self-governed and be in check. So I don't want to be reminded of a lot of the hard lessons. I don't want to have to use that as a way only to learn. It's gonna show up. But I don't need to participate in inviting that by either my ego or greed or whatever things that I could be vulnerable for, control. It's like, okay, try to check in, you know, and I don't need to rock that, you know, surefire ball of fate. Like, it's not, I'm clear with the rules.
I'm too.
I'm clear, you know.
But then you talk about, and again, I love this, when in relation to all of the opportunities you've had in life, because as we've said, you know, athlete and supermodel, both world class, New York Times best-selling author, with My Foot's Too Big for the Glass Slipper, which was, you know, I read up on that. What a great read. And again, to me, when you say that, no, it's not about humility, but you are really humble, you know, you really are in the face of, and you're very real, which is a really beautiful thing, you know.
But maybe I'm just really fortunate.
See, I love that.
No, but if you think about it, right, it's like I used to tell kids when you go to talk to a sports team, I go, listen, if you get to be on the team, like if you want to, you're really fortunate. And if for some reason you happen to be like one of the better people on the team, then maybe you're more fortunate. And so I think it's a way also of looking at it going, okay, I'm not going to question, because none of us deserve, what do I deserve? So I'm not going to question, because I used to have guilt. So in my 20s, I'd really beat myself up. I felt guilty and undeserving. Oh, 100%. So, and I watched my husband go through it differently, and so, you know, but similarly, where you're just like, I don't deserve this, why do I get these opportunities, or what have you. So then instead of doing that, go, okay, well, if I'm really gonna say I'm grateful, everyone throws that word around, just do your job. Do your job. Show up. Do your job. If you have that opportunity, do it. Go for it. Show up. Be responsive. Bust your ass.
Bust your ass.
And
right.
so that's how I look at it. It's like, oh man, the portal opened, the door opened, go through it. And that makes me be able to deal and manage with me not understanding why I get to do certain things that I really want to do, and maybe other people in other places at this time don't have that opportunity because I don't understand it. But then you're kind of a knucklehead, I think, if you just be like, well, I don't, it's like, well, now you're wasting it.
Yeah, I mean, definitely why some have opportunities and why others don't. It's a big sort of life question mark.
Yeah, it is.
But in relation to that, I love the attitude of, all right, well, I've been given these gifts, and so there's that small pull, so I'm going to go through that and I'm going to do my best. Because out of that comes that feeling of, well, I've earned this, so I don't need to feel bad, because I could have just blown that opportunity off and said, well, I won't today. But no, I worked hard and I got myself together and actually I went and, yeah, okay. And then again, that pushing you on to the next thing. So you get that constant momentum in your life.
Parentio's law, right? What is it? The Italian scientist talked about, like, a star will absorb another star, and then become brighter, and then pretty soon absorb all the other stars and get brighter and brighter and brighter. And so if I have an opportunity and I perform well, I get 2 more opportunities. If I perform well, I get 4 more, and so forth. And so it's really a law of nature. Conversely, listen, I've had plenty of times where it's been pretty flatliney, and I'm like, okay, and you just keep your head down and keep working, and I do believe that then the next thing reveals itself, even when you're not sure. But some of this stuff, like, we think we're so smart and we think we know, but there's certain things, it's science, it's physics, it's supernatural stuff all happening, and we're all like, it's like theater, right? Like, I'm playing a part, and so I'll just try to figure it out the best I can.
Right? Yeah. I love that.
And don't be afraid. That's the other thing. If you fall on your face and you look silly, or you fail, or you don't get it that one time, it's like businesses, like Laird Superfood is thriving, other businesses. We've had many businesses that haven't been successful. So I think that's really important for people to remember that, for 3 successes, there's 17 failures, and that is part of the story. And so let's not be afraid of those either.
Yeah, I saw an interesting thing from Will Smith the other day that he said, without failure there can be no success. And I was just like, absolutely, I mean, brilliant. But of course, it's like then on the day-to-day as we move forward and just keeping, and when you're having those failures, like you say, you keep your head down. And for me, I just have this sort of thing of me, I'm just in the trenches, just digging out the trenches, and it's just whatever's happening up there, because eventually it will come to pass because I'm digging in the trenches.
It does. And don't make it harder.
Yeah.
Well, hard work's just part of the deal.
Yeah.
Nobody gets away.
Yeah.
For me, that's like breathing.
Yeah. Now, I really, really want to know, I mean, obviously your thing, which again, love about you when I was doing research, is that growth is a word for you. And that's sort of the chart for you on life, and happiness is not a thing, peace is a thing. So if those are 2 things for you that are important for you to help you stay balanced within your life, how do you combine growth with peace? And especially if the growth is being fueled by discomfort. Maybe
it's so hard to know what the truth is, like in life sometimes, and think about like TV, media, things are politicized. Even sometimes our own recollection of things, like, did that really happen, or is it my spin on it, or whatever. And I think for me, sometimes when you're in the process of growth, and it doesn't have to be so precious, right? Like, on a 7-day, it's like, I don't have time for this shit. Like, I just don't. But it's like, hey, I've been acting a certain way, I'm going to practice. This is really important to me, what I'm going to say right now, because it's so important. We all have all the information. We all just need to practice. Period. End of story. It's about practice. And so when I'm in growth, I can find peace in there, because I feel like, okay, are you being as truthful, or it feels truthful, and that brings me a lot of peace. because it was like what I always said about sports. After a long practice of hard, sweaty, gross practice, even if I was terrible, I was like, yes, but that's honest. Mm-hmm. And so maybe within the growth, that's besides the idea of hoping to improve in some way, or just look at it differently, or grow with the world that I live in, I can experience that peace that way.
No, I love that. I love that. And then how you incorporate that into then finding balance within all of that. So you used the word homeostasis, and how you incorporate all of these different elements. Because growth and peace, that's the two big pies, right?
Yeah.
Finding balance with everything you've got going on.
You know, I read a book, a business book once that talked about a flywheel approach. So instead of thinking of things as balanced, think of things as a flywheel. So if I'm feeding my health, self-care, and then I'm nurturing my relationship and trying to grow and evolve with my children, and then like get dinner on the table, and then work on my business, that for me was an easier thing than this idea of all the buckets are across and how they all have 8 chips in them. So it was like getting the flywheel. And by the way, some weeks will be more like kids, some weeks might be more like kids got more neglected and business was kicked in. Some weeks, one thing I really try not to neglect is my relationship, because it feels like an anchor to so much of this stuff, to be honest. And then before that, it's my self-care practice. So really what I'm always hyper diligent about, even if it's like I only have minutes, self-care, making sure Laird and I were square. Doesn't mean we're perfect. Doesn't mean we have weeks where it's like, ooh, we're kind of 1 inch away from being on each other's nerves all day. And some days we have so much flow that it's like no problem. It's normal. Life. But then it's like, okay, work and friends and the flywheel. So that helped me a lot, thinking that everything had to be balanced. And then it's also remembering this. This has been really helpful. This is my choice. This has been my choice. These work projects, this relationship, having these children, this has all been my choice. So I'm here because I have chosen this, and I don't have to. I don't really have to. I could lose the plot and hit the road. This is my choice. There's so much I have control over. I mean, in the non-control way, that I can participate.
Yeah, by acknowledging that you're making these choices in life. No one's forcing you to do these things. It's
happening to me.
Yeah.
It's happening to me.
There you go.
And I accept within all of that is also I'm trying my very best, and it's hard for me to surrender within that. Right? It's like participating in things I can control, and then simultaneously, if you want to get even like more layered, how do I surrender? Yeah, surrendering stuff. But sometimes it gets to the point where you just have to say, oh, F it, I just have to let go, because the energy it's taking to resist surrendering, because usually surrendering for me it's like that fear of losing control, but then you've got to remember, well, you don't really have any control anyway, Anna. That's it. So that's a fallacy in your own head, so that's the first check off. And then from there, it's just for me also in the surrender, what's on the other side of that? Oh, shoot. Because I know this whole dear life, awful. Right? What's coming out of the blue? I need my children to be a certain way. Yeah. I need everything to be exactly as I plan. I have a plan. Nobody here in my house, not even when we're recording, it's not even quiet. No one's fitting in with the plan. No, I think that happens. I think that's the other thing, right? Is my children have taught me this better than anyone. And certainly I live with a very defiant, non-compliant human being. So if you figure 25 years of someone who shows up, is loving, is kind, I have no, I'm not demented or deluded in any way thinking I can control Laird. There's none of that. And then add in, let's get a couple kids. Let's procreate 2 non-compliant people and then have kids. Do you think they're coming out compliant? No, they're not coming out compliant. And I don't want them to be compliant. I want them to be non-compliant in their adult life, but that's not how it works. So, you know, right, once in a while, sometimes you make a move and you go, I think that was the right move. But that happens so infrequently.
Yeah, really.
Yeah, so I think that's really the important thing is like, that's why you got to get in there and participate, because then you blow it and then you go, oh, okay.
Now, I have to ask, you know, being married to, you know, the world's greatest, to me, surfing legend, there must have been times for you as partner, as mum, where it must be a bit nerve-wracking for you being with this badass of a guy, and this is what he does. This is what drives him. This is his, you know, and then he goes off and goes for 5 hours, 6 hours at a time, right? I mean, how have you dealt with that? Because it's not like he's just going out to mow the lawn, you know?
Well, you know, listen, life is dangerous. Unexpected things happen to all of us, and fear of the unknown is something I've always, and I'm really good about it with Laird. Sometimes, you know, you're always anticipating and reacting to stuff that never happens. So it's very easy with Laird. When I met Laird, that's what he did. He was known for that. I interviewed him for that. You know, this expression, like, you knew the job was dangerous when you took it. Like, I knew what I was getting into. However, the real side of that is why I have a lot of comfort is Laird is one of the most serious people I've ever witnessed when it comes to his preparation, his training, all his equipment. You've never seen a more serious professional person. You know, it's like it's militant, it's military style, and you'll see this with athletes or military or people who do anything dangerous. And remember, Laird's been doing this a long time. If they've been doing it a long time, they all have this. Every last one of them. They're not going to be like, let's see what happens. You're talking about, we know what we're doing is dangerous. We will be as prepared as we can. Obviously, you know that you can't control things all the time. But I have a lot of faith in Laird. I've seen Laird show up in a lot of ways in life that are would give you a lot of confidence that Laird will do the right thing at the right time. And even having said all that, God forbid anything ever happened to Laird doing what he really loves to do. I mean, this is his purpose. And I've said this many times, it would be far more dangerous to live with Laird if he didn't surf than to just, this is what he's doing. And as far as my kids, you know, I chose to have a family with Laird. This is the family that I made with Laird. So we'll deal with it. You know, my dad died in a plane crash when I was 5. It's like, you don't know. And so, yeah, I could see where some people go, oh, I bet you're not doing that now that you have kids. And Laird's like, okay.
Yeah, no, you can't stop who you are just because you procreate.
Yeah, well, that's it. And sometimes, like, who you are, maybe it'd be better for you to go out to sea or something.
Yeah,
so,
some people,
and
right?
also teaching your kids, if you have something that you really feel strongly about and you want to pursue it, that's freaking great. And guess what? It's a lot of commitment and a lot of work, and you better take it serious. And I think that's a really good,
it's good upbringing,
modeling,
good education.
Yeah,
most definitely.
Absolutely.
Brilliant. Now let's swing then.
Okay.
Talking to what I would consider dangerous pursuits, ex-PT down in the deep end of your pool with weights and all sorts, going ballistic, but you don't hurt yourself. Apparently, right?
Yeah.
Okay, can you tell us, please, about...
Okay, so about 12 years ago, you know, we've been training a long time, both of us separately for our respective sports and just training in life to try to keep sanity, and Laird certainly is still in pursuit of performance. I'm in pursuit of like sanity and stuff, and so he started developing underwater pool training. You know, there's a Hawaiian thing where they carry the rock on the bottom of the ocean. The limitation is you can only go as far as you can go. And so what Laird started doing was messing around with like, so if I took a breath in between each rep of jumping from the 12-foot pool and being ballistic, as you said, now I can be in this ballistic training, but when I land, I don't have to land like this.
Right.
So if I went into the pool right now and did 200 jumps, if I did that on land, I would be punished.
Yeah, yeah.
I already have an artificial knee.
Yeah, right.
So this was a way to not only do that, but there's an interesting thing happens with the water, like Mother Nature. It's really clear. There's no air down there. There's air up here. And when you're under there and you meet yourself, when you feel like you're getting close to your envelope. There's something really important within training or just living life where you meet yourself enough times, back to that honesty, and also to train yourself to go, well, I'm uncomfortable. If I freak out, I'm definitely not going to make it. But if I find the way to acknowledge that I'm feeling this way, but relax, that's actually the only way I'm going to make it. Because you freak out, right? You burn all your air, you're done. But if I find the way to live with that discomfort just a little bit longer, I can make it. And so that environment, and it's not a coach over you, so you're like, oh, he doesn't like me. It's the water.
Yeah.
It's objective. So there's so many performance elements to it. You're in hypoxic training. There's all kinds of very important scientific benefits. But for me, emotionally and mentally, it's also going into that honesty as much as I can. And some days even seeing like, wow, I don't have it today. Even being able to recognize that. So I think that that's super important, because the thing about training is this, and we all have to be careful about this in self-care. We can call it, health and wellness, fitness, whatever you want to call it. That too, it becomes an addiction and an obsession, okay? And we all have that tendency. So is it a relationship? Is it drugs, alcohol? Is it exercise? Is it whatever? So it's just trying to manage that. So for me, I'm also interested in, and I know Laird is actually even more than me, is how am I doing things to also just train the organism to be better? So it isn't just about like, I can put this weight over my head, the organism, your reactions, your mind, your body, and even your emotions. And so if your training can manage to also support and improve the organism, I think that that's far more interesting than I put like 300 pounds over my head. It's like, yeah, okay. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but it's when that's the thing. It's, it's the body, but also, I mean, the idea of it really terrifies the pants off me, because if you're underwater, well, because I almost drowned as a child.
Well, I was going to say, it's very primal. Many people have had very difficult situations in water. I have a lot of athletes here. They're exceptional, and they're brave. The bravest thing they ever do is when they come here and they're afraid of the water. Yeah. And so for me, when I see that, understand we're talking about like, that's primal, and it was so natural to feel that way.
Yeah. The idea of being down there and, oh my gosh, running out of breath, and then just looking at and that natural reaction would be it's like you talk about making that choice to just sit with the discomfort a little bit more instead of doing
But I want to say this. It's easy for me to say, I mean, listen, I've been doing this training a long time, so I have a point of reference to know that I'm okay. And I also know when I'm not going to be okay, but I think it's really important for people to know that it's a really natural thing, but I think it's an important type of training, because you train so many things at one time.
Yeah, I love that idea that it's the body and the mind and the emotions, and really just tying that whole process together, because sitting at the bottom of a pool with a 300-pound weight attached to you, that is where the emotions would most definitely kick in, and where the mind would totally get squirrely.
Well, think about meditation. Right, meditation, you're trying to create a gap between what's coming at you and your response. So what's cool about the pool, same thing. I'm experiencing this, and I still have to make a decision. Yeah. So it's an opportunity to make what's the best decision I can make. And I think that that's another really important part of the training. It's like, I had this moment and I had to make a decision, and I still, under that stress, had to make a good decision.
Yeah. Okay, so very quickly, fascinated to know again, when you talk about this incredible underwater training and other athletes, and how you incorporate the Ahana lifestyle into, again, bringing people into your environment to help them move beyond. And it's not just like, oh, come over and we're going to have a Keep Fit class in the pool. There's something so much more led into that whole process. And then also in Hawaii, with you doing your exercise classes, talk to me how, again, you're helping people through these physical aspects.
It's just sharing. It's sort of like if I was going to start a business similar to yours and I was now 13 years behind you, for you to share some of your experiences and sum it up for me and teach me would really not be that hard for you. And I think it becomes more about, we're not here helping anyone. We know very little, but we have a little bit of experience in this. If someone's willing to show up and be uncomfortable in the way that it's scary and you have to work hard, and especially if Laird's around, you're not going to get away from it. You're just sharing. And I think that it goes back to that DeMello quote, which is like, I'm not helping anyone. Yeah. Ultimately, I'm probably doing it for myself. And again, like I have a giant pool in my house. Like, you know, how lucky am I? How fortunate am I? And if somebody's like, hey, can I? It's like, yeah, of course. Now, having said that, I've had people that don't come, they look like they're networking or they don't really work hard. They don't last long. So people are really showing up, and then it also becomes a little bit like a lab. Yeah. So you can't just make everything from your own mind, and Laird and I can't do it, and we're a couple, so sometimes it's like, oh, okay. So you have these other inputs coming, and it's more creative because, you know, training for 30, however many, 40 years, it's like, ugh, you know, so you want this kind of new input. And it's also really, I don't know anything more exciting. I've had a football player come here, and he could swim okay, but not great. And then he trained with us for over like 6 months. And the growth was so astounding that he didn't realize how much he inspired us. Wow. So I think also there's a lot of that in there where you look at someone and you go, wow, that's pretty cool. And it's what's life about? You know, like how much do I need to accumulate? It's like, those are the things.
Well, the last thing I want to know about you, because you give so much to others. I mean, your whole setup in life that's just how you're positioned. How do you give back to you? How do you practice self-care? How do you look after Gabby?
You know, I defend my real estate really well. I don't let all of my chosen responsibilities and roles press in on to the point that I can't find my form again. And so there's a part of me that's a lot more selfish than maybe is being communicated here. Which is like, I will make sure, even when my kids were babies, if I had 10 minutes, it's like, I'm going to exercise. Because I also know it's not good, but I don't, you know, for me, that's like a huge luxury. Like, I'm well aware that part of my job is to take care of myself. So I think simultaneously, I'm always well aware, like, oh, I'm doing something for myself, and then somehow it gets justified as my work. And so maybe I've looked at the whole thing. Oh, I got to play volleyball for a living. When I was much younger, I got to be in fashion. It's like, these have all been things for me. And I work in businesses that I want to work in. Yeah. So when I really look at it, this is for me. But if you're talking about like superficial whatever, you know, I might get like some random beauty treatment from time to time, but that's only when I look in the mirror and I go, oh yeah, it's like getting out of hand.
It's got to be done.
Yeah, it's just like, what's going on?
Yeah.
But in that way, like, I feel like as complex as we all are, and I know that I am, there's a part of me that if I've trained and I'm eating well and I'm like with the people I love, I'm pretty good.
Yeah, you're practicing self-care already.
I'm pretty good. I'm pretty good. Life. I mean, I live also in beautiful places. Like, I guess what it is I haven't forgotten that, like, I can look at the ocean and I look at nature, and that's self-care. I mean, that's like the freaking highest level of self-care.
Yeah. No, I love it. And I love that you call that going to fishing or something superficial. One last thing. Do you have any pointers or tips you'd like to share with our readers, you know, about them, the way they can practice greatness in their life, find greatness in their life, and be of service?
I think, you know, listen, when we talk about greatness, this is if I was going to like talk to someone, and that's the other thing, I try really hard not to give advice because we're all so different. I can say, hey, this is what I share with my experience, but first, what I would say to anyone, you know, your readers, is know who you are. like, you don't have to be someone else. And I know sometimes that's scary and confusing. That starts there. Because if you want greatness, whatever that means, to show up, greatness is, I cannot believe I'm saying this, Arnold Schwarzenegger said, like, real success is when your outside life reflects who you are inside. And so I think we think of greatness as like this thing, like, oh, she's known for this, or she got this, or they won this award, they have all this money. Greatness is like, I wake up each day, and for the most of the day, I'm kind of myself, and I'm spending time doing things that I want to be doing, even when they're hard.
Peace in my life, right?
What, a semblance of it, and even you can identify when things are upside down, like it's not all blended together. I have people that I'm around that for most of the days I love them. You know, it's like they don't love me all the time either. I know that. But I'm just saying that tapestry reflects truly who you are, and that you have the ability enough times to block out, okay, what she's doing and what he's doing and what's on social media and whatever, and just go, no, do I even know what's going to make me feel good? Because if people can do that, if you want to talk about greatness, that's some ass-kicking stuff. If you can be like, yeah, it's great, this pursuit that everyone seems to be on, but I know I'm going to feel really good if I do this. Even if I say no. Like, all your friends are getting together, going to do some, like, whatever, you know, wine tasting, girly, whatever, and you think, I would feel really good just staying home and doing my own thing.
Missing it, yeah.
That's freaking greatness. And so I think, for me, that tip is, and you can't do any of it without taking care of yourself. If you're not getting to bed, if you're not hydrated, if you're not eating most times better than not, and moving your body in some capacity, it's going to be harder. And it doesn't have to be perfect. My life is not perfect, my house is not perfect, my children are not perfect. It's just, why is that the goal? And so it goes back to us, because so much of what we do, and women more than anyone, is it's the presentation for everyone else. Isn't it perfect? Do you think I care if it's perfect? No, but if you came over, I'd be like, I need to make it perfect. And so just to encourage them to just find your own voice and make your life, your lover, everybody be as, you know, reflective of you and a place you want to be as you can. And by the way, your kids are independent entities of you. And they will, and if we're willing, they're our great teacher, and they'll be the only ones you'd be like, I wouldn't make that choice. But everything else, you know what I mean? I think it's important.
You're amazing. Thank you so much. I could talk to you all day. You're amazing. Just fascinating conversation.
Oh, well, I don't know. Thank you.